You now identify as an independent, but when you wrote the report, you were a conservative, you were a Republican. Why you weren't targeting yourself in this stuff? So how do you draw that line? Where do you draw the line between people who have mainstream conservative beliefs? Maybe you don't want over-regulation of certain things, maybe, whatever the case is, with this domestic, violent, right-wing, white nationalist extremism. Where's the line?
Yeah, so I spent 40 years of my life as a conservative Mormon. So I had no political agenda when I wrote that report. I'm a gun owner. I was married, had 4 kids, just going about my life and doing my job. So, basically what's, causing a lot of this extremism and stuff is people continue to be, fanned by these politicians, and politicians are using them to get votes to win elections. So that's, the biggest thing we need to focus in on. And also these interagency infighting that we have, these turf battles between agencies. That's why we need domestic terrorism legislation. I support the legislation that delineates roles and responsibilities for federal agencies. And there's plenty of work to do. We shouldn't be fighting amongst ourselves on who's got what.
Jason, far-right extremists who carry out these attacks that we were just talking about, Buffalo or Jacksonville, they're often referred to as lone wolves. And some people say that term misrepresents the nature and the extent of the threat. Tell me what you think about this.
Well, it's not lone wolves who are letting people die on the borders of our country. It's not lone wolves in Europe who are allowing mass drownings of immigrants. It's not lone wolves who are shipping immigrants from state to state as if they're just like pawns in a political game. It's not lone wolves who are doing the things that are increasingly what we're seeing enabled by this rhetoric by the state. It's state actions that concern me now most particularly, because we are seeing not just in the United States but other places like India, whose Hindu nationalism is similar to our white Christian nationalism. We're seeing this sort of relationship between, say, sheriffs in the United States and these violent militias, and we're seeing look at January 6th. Look at the relationship between the lone wolves, larger militias. And if some of these politicians are successful, we're going to see this in state-sanctioned violence against immigrants and state-sanctioned violence, frankly, against political opponents.
This is a crucial conversation, and I think we're going to need more time for it. So I'm going to, I'm just going to invite you both to come back and continue this conversation. We've hardly touched on it, but thank you to both of you for your thoughtful work. Jason Stanley is a professor of philosophy at Yale University and the author of How Fascism Works, the Politics of Us and Them, and How Propaganda Works. Darrell Johnson is a former senior analyst for domestic terrorism at the United States Department of Homeland Security and the author of Hate Land, a long, hard look at America's extremist heart.